Hello everyone! Today I want to talk about the next upcoming limited character Hu Tao and whether I think she is worth your wishes. As always, if you like her for aesthetical reasons, go for it, but I focus on her combat potential in this video. It is a rerun banner, so I won't go into too much detail about her skills and rather just talk about her playstyle first and later about her team compositions. If you like her gameplay and discover that she fits your team quite well, I'd say she is worth your wishes, otherwise it's a skip. And with that being said, let's get started. Most people categorize Hu Tao as a main DPS and mainly play her with a Jing Shou in a Vaporize comp. I'd like to argue that she has some potential as a support as well though, since her Blood Blossoms apply Pyro while she's off field, and her first passive skill grants her teammates 12% increased crit rate. So sometimes I like to play her as a support in a meld comp, for example with Ayaka. So once you press the ultimate burst skill with Ayaka, I'd like to switch back to Hu Tao and meld with charged attacks and her ultimate burst skill. And once Ayaka's ultimate burst skill runs out, I switch back to her and benefit from the 12% increased crit rate, and the Blood Blossoms from Hu Tao will trigger some melds as well. Hu Tao's playstyle is quite unique and very comparable to the first patch 2.2 character Child. Her normal attacks are quite useless until she uses her elemental skill, which temporarily infuses her attacks with Pyro and give extra attack based on her max HP. Unlike Child, her elemental skill has a fixed cooldown, which makes it easier to manage. But there are some other drawbacks to Hu Tao, because she mainly deals damage with her very hard-hitting charged attacks, so stamina management will be very important on this character. And one more downside to her is her charged attacks have very limited AoE damage, meaning this character is more like a boss killer than something that can cleave through masses of enemies. A few minor things to note about this character: the small arrows you see around her indicate that her passive skill is active and increasing her pyro damage. This is only the case while she is below 50% HP, and you want to make sure this is always the case. Another thing is, the only real way to apply pyro with her is after using her elemental skill or using her elemental burst skill. So if you're using a Viridescent set user and want to lower the pyro resistance, it is kind of awkward and kind of impossible if you don't have a second pyro character in your party. And the last thing to mention is, as you see, her charge attack animation is quite long and moves you forward quite a bit. So it's extremely beneficial on this character to learn about animation cancelling. You can do it by jumping anytime during the animation. So if the enemy is quite far away, you can charge attack over there and then just jump attack out of it very early, and you will charge attack very frequently this way and deal a lot more damage. So this adds a lot to your mobility and damage output on this character, and in my opinion on the overall enjoyment of Hu Tao. And now I will showcase some gameplay against this Ruin Guard. First you activate your Jing Shou, apply Hydro, switch to Hu Tao, activate her elemental skill and just charge attack. As you see, we vaporize there and there again. And again, and he's dead. And now let me just showcase the Ayaka support. I assume this guy will not have enough HP, but yeah, he just died instantly to the Q skill, but I would have just charge attack a few more times there, and after Ayaka's ultimate skill runs out, I switch back to her and just do Ayaka rotations. Now let's get into team compositions. The first slot obviously always goes to Hu Tao, the second one will be our healer. In theory any healer works, but most people prefer Bennett, so I'll just pick him here. He is especially good with Hu Tao because you get your pyro resonance, and as we said earlier, if you want to use a Viridescent set user, you kind of need a second pyro character. Bennett just fits this role really well. Speaking of these, as a first support I like to pick something to lower resistances. Venti would work, Kazuha would work, or Sucrose. If you don't have any of these and don't want to play Bennett, you could obviously pick Jean or Sayu to lower resistances. The easiest way to get this is obviously Zhongli. He is a really great addition to any team because you get so much survivability as well. And you really want one of these lowering resistance characters because Hu Tao primarily uses pyro damage. But if you don't want to do this for whatever reason, you could obviously just pick 2 sub DPSs. Let's pick Zhongli for now. And the second support kind of defines the comp. You have 3 options, the first one being a vaporized comp. The best support for this is definitely Jingzhou, and probably just the best support for Hu Tao in general. If you don't want him, you could play Mona. Her hydro application rate is way lower, but you get a very sizable damage increase from her ultimate burst skill. If you don't play Bennett as a healer, you could obviously pick Kokomi, and she has a pretty good hydro application rate as well. Next would be a meld comp. The best enabler for this is Kea. If you don't want to play him, you could play Rosaria. Again, if you don't play Bennett as a healer, you could pick Diona as well to use her elemental burst skill to enable meld. The last option is probably the weakest one. It's an overload comp. For this, you could pick the Raiden Shogun. Hu Tao's elemental burst skill hits very hard, so her increasing the damage of it is very nice. On top of that, Raiden Shogun covers a lot of downtime of Hu Tao's elemental skill with her elemental burst skill. Otherwise, you could pick Beidou. Her elemental burst skill hits very hard, just the flat damage, and you get your overload on top of that. If you don't pick Bennett as your healer and, for example, pick Kokomi, and you definitely want a Viridescent set user, for example, you have Kazuha and like to play him a lot, you definitely need a second Pyro support to enable Kazuha's Viridescent set. So I think the best option here is just jungling. And the last thing to mention is using Hu Tao as kind of a support, or to be more specific, a burst damage support, so dealing a lot of damage in a short period of time by doing, for example, what I said earlier with Ayaka, or the same applies to Ganyu. You could also pick a child. The big upside is obviously the same as Raiden Shogun. He covers a lot of downtime of the elemental skill of Hu Tao by using his own elemental skill. Unfortunately, he doesn't really enable Hu Tao because he can't really function as a hydro support. So the best thing is to just drop your Viridescent set user and just pick any of the supports we discussed earlier to enable Hu Tao. Otherwise, you could also just drop Bennett as a healer and pick a Viridescent set here, or just pick something like Kokomi to enable Hu Tao this way and just pick another Viridescent set support. So is Hu Tao worth your wishes? Aside from being a good fit for your account, having all the characters you need for her build, you also need to like the quick swap team gameplay, meaning you're switching to your other characters, constantly using the elemental skills and elemental burst skills to cover for Hu Tao's downtime on her elemental skill. If you like this, I think she's definitely worth your wishes. She has one of the highest single target damage potential in the game, so if you're struggling with Abyss boss stages, she will definitely help you out with this, reaching 3 stars, whatever it is. Alright, we made it to the end. I hope this helped you decide whether you want to wish for Hu Tao or not, and stay tuned for more videos in the future. Until then, have fun and have it, and bye bye.